If we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging, and we're going down the way we want to be able to play. In the Premier League, you can wait to be killed. I want us to be exciting. I want our supporters to enjoy watching their team, be proud to watch their team. No, plucky Luton doing all right, but I don't want to be plucky little Luton. I want us to go for it and try and win.
Tom Lockyer's gone down here.
No one can prepare you for that at all. It was harrowing. It was, because it was silent. It was deathly silent.
So then the day comes when relegation is confirmed.
I really genuinely believe that we could do it. We just came up short. We failed. I wish I knew then what I know now. Even though we've had a setback, we have now got to be able to deal with the expectation that we've got to be up there. It just fuels the fire to want to get back there.
This episode is supported by Huel.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I think you know how these conversations normally begin. What do you believe high performance to be, Rob?
I think maximising potential, trying to drag every ounce of whatever it is out of every person, and along the way having fun with it. I think that's really important to enjoy what we're doing. We're really lucky and privileged to be working in the sport that we are. Yeah, just giving people the opportunity and the platform to go and be the best they can be.
Love that. And I think what's really interesting is that your job is to get the best out of people, but it's also to get the best out of people when you've got the pressure of Premier League football or Championship football, when you've got the pressure of huge games, when you've got the pressure of the media, when you've got the pressure of individuals causing issues maybe within a football club, and all of this comes back to the manager. And we talk so often about the physical demands on a football player. I'm really interested to explore with you the mental demands on a manager. How would you describe those mental challenges that you have to cope with?
You need good people around you, because we don't do it on our own. I've got great people that work with me that that I can dump stuff on, talk to, ask questions, and allow them to go and crack on with their jobs as well. That hopefully frees me up to try and be the best I can be in what I need to do. We're certainly not on our own with this. It's just not possible in a day, with the demands and the questions you get in and the scrutiny and all that other stuff on the outside. I need people around me to help.
It's interesting, isn't it? We've asked Rob two questions. What is high performance? And he immediately talks about the players and the people around him. Then we ask him about the emotional challenges of a manager, and immediately Rob talks about the people around him rather than himself, which is an interesting trait with high performance.
Yeah, it is. But I do want to go back to it, Rob. I know like Guy Whittingham on the FA Pro licence brings in a heart surgeon to talk to aspiring head coaches about the pressures that they're under, and the heart surgeon has said that you guys are under more pressure than what he is, and I am interested in not just how you offload it to the team around you, but how do you cope with those real intense acute moments of pressure?
I think I'm learning to really enjoy them. And I would never have thought that. And I was just laughing there with Jake a bit before this now, talking that no course can prepare you for half-time and extra time of the playoff final, the Championship playoff final. It's the richest game in football. So, when you've got 3 players that are injured, they're hanging off, but you've only got 2 subs left. What do you do? And that half-time team talk, you laugh at it now. Excuse my language, we can blank this out if we need to, but I'm right. I was like, who's fucked? Well, and then about 2 or 3 of them putting their hands up, like, well, who's less fucked? Do you know what I mean? And in the end, it was that, excuse my language, I'm sorry, I don't swear loads, but that was what it was. And then we were having to go, right, well, he's more done than him, so right, come on, and you're off now. And then we had to do 2 more in the, or 1 more in the, during the half, that second half of extra time. You live in the moment, and then those moments now, you realise, oh, we did all right, we coped well in that. I quite enjoyed it in a perverse way, and living through it. And then we look back, and it's great to be able to look back, because I don't think we do that very often either in football, and that was good.
This episode is supported by Huel.
But you made that comment, Rob, that we very rarely look back in football to then assess, well, that was good, why was it good, and how do we take what's good and replicate it in the future? So I'm interested in how you do that with your team around you. Even
after the success of getting promotion with Luton anyway, in that playoff final and stuff, it was we were almost then on to the next thing. But what's next? And having to then prepare for Premier League football, the season of Premier League football. And I suppose it was hard for us all to be able to sit down, because so much is happening, so much is going on. It's hard for us to sit down and go, right, let's digest this. What have we done well? Let's look. And we did, and we found time. And then in the pre-season as well, to sort of, right, this is good, this is how we expect to be, and this is what we think the season's going to go like, this is how we want to evolve. but then you're living in the moment, you're living on the next, it just moves on to the next thing. And you don't really allow yourself to go, well, that was great. Everyone did so well. We really overachieved there. What did we do? You get on to the next thing. I feel weird sitting here as well sometimes, like talking about high performance, and we've just been relegated. Ultimately, I genuinely feel like we failed. I've spoken to so many people in football and out of football as well. Say, oh, you did so well, and you did this and that. And I know it's nice, and it's nice to hear that, but it's hard, and it still hurts now because I feel we were close, and around January, February time, I thought, we're going to do this. We're going to achieve something unbelievable here, and we're going to do this, and we weren't quite able to. We just came up short.
What's interesting, Rob, is there's a really interesting management study from two management scientists, Madsen and Desai, that they call the triple impact questions. So one of my pet hates is, when people in sport say, oh, yeah, we'll take the learnings from it. And the actual study of how you take the learnings is what they say is, what did you believe before? What was the moment that changed your mind? And what do you now believe instead? And I'm interested in, when you look back then in that Premier League season, what did you believe about your own capabilities as a coach beforehand? When did you realise there was anything different? And what do you believe now then?
Yeah, I believed that it was going to be really difficult going into the Premier League season. I knew that. I probably didn't believe that we could evolve and change as much as we did and grow as much as we did. And I feel we had to go through this journey and we had to go through the early stages of pain to almost become the team that was really, really brave, and the team that maybe one or two people really started to like watching that weren't Luton fans. But I wish I knew then what I know now. And I think what I believe coming out of it and then reflecting and then during the season as well, that there was nothing there that really surprised us tactically. You're coming up against the best, but there was nothing there that we thought, whoa, what is that? I don't want anyone to feel like I was, sort of bigging up the Premier League too much and didn't have enough belief or confidence in us as a team or as a group. But I think we had to go through those early stages of 10, 12 or so games to really learn about it. We had so little Premier League experience really going into it. A lot was made of that. I had a couple of handfuls of Premier League appearances 20 odd years ago or whatever it was. So it's changed so much since then. We obviously brought in Ross Barkley, who Ross was brilliant for us, a lot of Premier League experience, and Ross Townsend, Tim Krul. But then other than that, there was a lot of some of the lads had played a little bit here or there. Paul Trott, one of my assistants, had Premier League experience working with Chris Hughton, at Brighton, for instance, quite recently. But it wasn't loads in the building. And I feel like we had to just go through this. So we started off the season sort of being us from the Championship the year before. Quite clearly then we had to adjust quickly. The Brighton game was like, oof. I remember saying wow to myself on a touchline on the opening day about 3 times. Like, right. Wow. You can watch Match of the Day, you can watch Premier League games and as much as you want, but then when you stood on the touchline and the lads are feeling it, then you realise, okay, this is different. We've got to up our game. We've got to improve quickly.
Huel has been a staple of my diet for some time, and I'm currently loving these Huel Daily A to Z vitamins. Tastes great, refreshing. Each can has 26 vitamins and minerals, offering 154 science-backed health benefits. Reduced tiredness and fatigue, normal cognitive function, healthy skin, hair and nails, and vitamin D for immunity. This is a vitamin drink that offers everything you could need it to. So what are you waiting for? Grab it right now in Tesco stores nationwide or at Huel.com and let me know what you think.
And what did you say to the players after that match?
It was a case of still supporting them, but realising, right, there's the level. There is the level. It was okay, we need to adjust. We need to adjust things, how we're going to train, intensity, loads of things here really, really quickly. And we did, and we got helped a little bit by having to do work on the stand as well. So our first home game was called off, so we had a bit of a gap between Brighton and then Chelsea away. Chelsea away we improved, but we still got ultimately well beaten. And then we thought, okay, we need to tighten things up a little bit. So we had a couple of games against West Ham and Fulham where we tightened things up, but then we weren't the team I wanted us to be. We were far from it at that stage, but we were still, like I said, we were having to sort of go through this process. Wolves was the first time at home where we felt like we can go and be us, turn the heat up. Let's go, let's take risks and be brave and be aggressive. We played really well.
Well, how did you know that was the time to take those risks?
So the plan always was to be against probably the bottom 12, 14 teams at home, to go and be as aggressive as we can and be what we want to be, man-to-man pressing, be aggressive, trying. And it was more around out of possession at that stage, because that's kind of what we'd been as a team. Again, not really what I want us to be, but that's where we were in our stage of this journey I'm talking about, our evolution. So that was always the plan, and it showed that we can do this, we can compete, we can. And Wolves were a really good team, and Gary was obviously still working things out at his club at that time, but they were good, they had really good players. So we took some confidence from that, and then after that we went up and we actually got our first win against Everton. So there was a bit of confidence, a bit of belief, okay, we can compete, but we weren't where I wanted us to be ultimately. And it still took a little bit of time with painful experiences away at Villa, where we'd give teams a +1 in their build-up, but then quickly they got the quality. We're just defending the edge of the box, and it's hard then to lay a glove on the opposition team. And the fans were incredible. It was 3,000 coming away from home and travelling, but I'm thinking they're with us because of where we're at the moment. We're experiencing something that we haven't experienced for over 30 years, as supporters here. But I want to give them something to be proud of as well in terms of performance. So really, anyway, fast forward a little bit, it was Arsenal at home. That was like Luton 2.0, and that was where I wanted us to be. And then from there, we could really build on that and be, this is us. It doesn't matter who we're playing against. It doesn't matter home or away. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging, and we're going down the way we want to be able to play. But I feel like we had to go through those first couple of months to get there.
There's something there around mindset as well, isn't there? Because there's a study that was done at Princeton University where you talk about where students were all given the same test but given different instructions. Some were told this is a test to find out whether you deserve to be at Princeton University. So it was almost like a threat to them. Whereas some were told this is just a test to find out how clever you are. So it was seen as a challenge. And what they found is the threat versus the challenge scores were radically different. Those that were threatened scored 72%. Those that had the challenge scored 90%. So I'm interested in when that change in mindset came about, from rather than feeling the threat of, do we deserve to be here, to the challenge of, we're going to show who we really are. When did that occur?
It was Brentford away, and then going into the Arsenal home game a few days later. We're in the entertainment business. Yeah, we want to win. We're in the winning business as well, but we want to try and entertain as well. I want us to be exciting. I want our supporters to enjoy watching their team, be proud to watch their team. I felt that night, it was freezing cold night at Brentford. The fans were still amazing. They were brilliant. Still stood and applauded us at 90 odd minutes, being beaten 3-1, but really been well beaten and not the way I wanted us to be. So I remember we had a long meeting with the staff, say 2 days later, getting ready for the Arsenal game. So we've just been well beaten there away at Brentford. Now we've got Arsenal at home, and we've got City after that. So, right, how are we going to go? And there was a little bit of resistance, or a little bit of, I'm not sure here, Rob, but I said, I can't stand there and be like that again. I can't.
Explain what you mean like that.
To be passive, to be almost allowing the opposition to dominate, even if they have got some better players or more experience or whatever else. I just thought, that's not how I want to be. I want us to be a good I want us to be bold, and I want us to take risks. I'm standing here and saying to the boys, by the way, and it's always been the case, take risks. If we make mistakes, I don't care. We're human beings. I'll make more than any of you, so don't worry about it. Let's go. As long as we react the right way. I'm saying all these things about being bold and taking risks and everything, but we're not looking like a team that's doing that. We're competing, and we're going to Old Trafford and losing 1-0 and looking valiant and plucky Luton doing all right. But I don't want to be plucky little Luton. I want us to go for it and try and win. No, I was convinced this is the way I wanted us to be. It was going to. We're going to make a couple of changes to the selection because we need energy. We just played. We didn't not work hard against Brentford. We tried, but it was almost a message, and it was that message that I'm giving. It's my fault.
When you say the message changed, would you tell us what the message you were giving your players before? How you tweaked it, and then what it was?
So tactically, that was it. So now we're going to be man for man. So we're going to go up against one of the best teams in Arsenal, one of the best teams in Europe now. What Mikel's done there obviously is incredible. Yeah. But we're going to leave big spaces against top players and be 1v1.
And that is such a bold and exciting approach. Were the players like, this is ridiculous, or could you see they were like, great, we're going to go for this, love it?
I think they needed it as well, and they wanted it. I think when we're at our best, we play with emotion at Luton, and I think that's in general anyway. And I think we play with a freedom. You have to have a plan. You have to have the organisation. You have to be able to fall back on something. But if you've got that organisation, that game plan, tactically you're aware, but you've got a team that are willing to run for a brick wall for each other and fight for each other and play with passion and heart and bravery. If you can marry that up, then you're onto something. And I just felt like we need to pull on the emotion and the heartstrings here a little bit more. And yeah, we've got to have a clear game plan. We'll work on this and we'll be good on the grass, in and out of possession and transitions and set pieces and all of that stuff. Of course, we'll nail that. But lads, for us to have a foothold in this game, for us to try and win and beat Arsenal, this is the best way for us to go.
So aside from tactically, would you be happy to take us inside the dressing room, the final message you give those players before the game against Arsenal, where you want a change, you want front foot, you want to take on arguably one of the best teams in Europe? Apart from the tactics, on the emotional side, would you mind sharing with us the message that you would have given those players that day?
It was exactly that. It was as much as possible removing the fear. I talk a lot about being brave. I don't like even mentioning the word fear, but it's inevitable there's going to be. So I used to play with fear, and I look back and hate that because I was never able to be my best. Be brave, take risks. Everything that we tried to talk about, the message I tried to give was proactive, was aggressive, was think forward, was press. It was, if there's any kind of mistake, do not worry, just react, instant reactions. And yeah, ultimately, go for it, leave it all out there, just flipping enjoy it, because who thinks we're going to get anything from this game anyway? And ultimately we didn't. But it was the beginning of us and really growing into the league and becoming, the team that everyone would have seen then for that last half season that I think liked and appreciated. So that was it.
But there was a second part of what you said in terms of trying to combine two elements. One was the tactical bit of being brave and being on the front foot. But you also said about having a group of lads that would run through brick walls for each other, that were going to have each other's back in a tear-up. How do you create that bit? Because it's almost like the physics and the chemistry, and it's the chemistry bit that I think is most difficult to understand.
I think we when we took over, when we joined the club, we took over a team. And I mean, Nathan had done incredible work at this football club, along with everybody, and got into the playoffs the year before. When we joined the club at the World Cup break, we were 10th in the league, really close to the playoffs, and in great shape. All Nathan's teams will fight and work incredibly hard, play very good football, but he'll have a realism and pragmatism as well. Do what's required to win. He's done it in different ways. Really, really good aggressive football. Maybe in League Two, and then had to do it slightly differently in the Championship. So a lot of the characteristics of our team were, we fight and we run, and this is what we do. And at Luton Town, that's what we need. The fans expect that as well, by the way, and we got to try and embody that. So we weren't going really away. When we played Burnley in the Championship, when Burnley were brilliant, weren't they? They went away at 100 odd points, and it was one of our best performances. We lost the game 1-0, but we went really aggressive, man for man like that, and it was a brilliant performance. It was almost completely out of possession performance, but off the back of that, we did have some good bits of play and good football as well. But we pushed Burnley all away, and it was a proper tear. Vinny loved the game after. I mean, yeah, they won 1-0, so he'll be happy with it. But we really challenged them and did something different to most teams against them. Most teams in the end would have gone a bit mid-low block and waited. So we had that to fall back on as well. And lads, this was the sort of game to be able to refer to. A lot of our players were there in the year before in the Championship anyway. So we could refer back to past experiences and go, this is going to be the best way for us to go. And then it was a case of them picking a running team, a team that then is going to go, that's in their DNA, it's what they do, and they want to do that. And the lads ultimately, we don't want to wait to be, in the Premier League you can wait to be killed. If you wait mid-low block, teams like this are just going to kill you anyway. If we're going to lose, let's lose by doing it our way and literally, use that phrase again, having a tear up and going for it. I think the lads then were actually, they were up for it. it wasn't difficult then to convince them at all.
And there's another bit that I'm interested in exploring with you, that we talk about that emotional intelligence of knowing when to give somebody a rocket or when to just stand back. But we also know that emotionally, our brains respond 6 times faster than our logical one. So when you're coming into the dressing room and you're hurting, what do you do to buy yourself that time so you don't give out mixed messages of, you talk about being brave on one hand, but then you're annoyed when somebody's made a mistake?
Yeah. Generally, we'll have a few minutes as a group of staff. So we'll go and have a few minutes. We'll talk about it. First half of the game, Paul Trollope will be upstairs watching the game. So from a tactical point of view, he can give us his input. We will have been on the mic as well and stuff throughout that first half. But we'll talk about 2 or 3 of the key points that we really want to then try and get across to the players to be able to nail half time. Every now and again, there'll be you do the tactical, I'm going in now, and they're having it.
Right.
And sometimes you feel it, and sometimes I'm just angry, or sometimes you go, no, this is what's needed at this moment now. They need a jolt. They need we need a reaction here. Quite rare, because more, the lads are really professional and they're really consistent, and they normally give absolutely everything, and you can see it.
Right. As you reflect on the season, and this might be a hard question because of your modesty, what moment are you most proud of where you think, as a leader, you really stepped up?
I mean, the most difficult period and the most challenging period was obviously the time around Tom Lockyer. Yeah, nothing can prepare you for that. And that was probably the most challenging time. And no one can prepare you for that at all, for living through that. And look, I love the guy, but I'm not his fiance, I'm not his dad who were there in the stadium. I'm not, he's one of my team members, and for what he's done for me and for this football club, I'll always love him and love him for the person that he is. But then it became bigger than football and more important than football. And it wasn't long after that Arsenal game, this was, so we were beginning to change and evolve as this team. But then that happened. But then, okay, our world almost stops, and all it's about is Tom and his family. But the Premier League doesn't stop, and the rest of the world doesn't stop. So, okay, there's all this noise about what's gone on, and I know because we're in the Premier League now, it goes global and it reaches everywhere. But our fixture's not going to be called off on the weekend because of it. So we had a few days to try and make sense of it, make sure, first of all, he was all right. But then we got to prepare for Newcastle at home, the game after. And I think the way that the team dealt with it and that whole situation, I'm proud of everybody. I needed help around that time. I had to lean on people around me. But the way we sort of dealt with it was from Gary, the CEO, so at the very, very top, right the way through to everybody in the medics who were the real heroes. Incredibly proud of the whole football club.
What are your memories of the game and the moment that it happened? Because from my memory, you were very quickly on the pitch, weren't you?
Well, after what happened at Wembley, obviously then there's a you just click into gear, do you know what I mean? But this was, I could tell, and we could all tell very quickly, this was different. It just looked so much more, and it was so much more serious. So yeah, it was just like, just ran on. Some of the players were incredible. Bournemouth players as well were incredible and cleared the way and got people on really, really quickly. And then the medics were allowed to go and do their thing. It was harrowing. It was, because it was silent. It was deathly silent. Tom's fiance was then on the touchline, and people are trying to comfort her, and the medics are working on him, and it was really difficult. Now the game's gone, and once they'd brought him around, once they'd restarted his heart, and then he was, it took a while obviously, and then they got him off and they're looking after him. I got to be honest, then I was a wreck inside, I remember speaking to the players and saying, look, I'm supposed to lead you now. I'm supposed to know what to say, but I don't. There's supposed to, there's another half an hour of a game to be played. I can't lead you in that. I can't right now. And the lads were incredible. I mean, I then was sort of checking on Tom and then sort of around, and some of the players said to the staff, let's do it, we can do it now, we can do it for him right now. It was one or two of the lads that felt like that, but then I could
to carry on the game.
Yeah, but then some of the lads were, I could see it was spaced out and just not with it, and it wasn't the right thing in that moment, and for their players as well, and everybody. But yeah, it was. I needed everyone. I needed the staff. I needed Gary as well to be able to sort of almost then manage that whole situation, because yeah, it affected me right there and right then, and I needed a few days to be able to try and make some sense of it. What helped was fairly immediately after I was able to go to the hospital and see him and sit up and talk to him and give him a hug and see that he was okay, and that helped me that night. Within an hour or two. So I was able, once I knew he was okay, I was able to start dealing with it, Yeah.
But we are sense-making machines, as you say, that we have to try and put it into some kind of order in our own head. So in that couple of days afterwards, how did you make sense of it?
Yeah, it was difficult. Once we knew he was okay and he was on the mend, and then he was going to be getting moved and be, in great hands. Obviously that eased the worry. So the plan was always to give everyone a couple of days after that game anyway, because the way the schedule worked, we were going to have a couple of days off anyway and get ready for the next game, which was Newcastle. We ended up sticking to that plan. I needed a day or two. I mean, obviously there'd be some calls or text messages and things like that, but I think everyone probably needed a little bit of time. But I remember then speaking to Gary, our CEO, into the second day, and saying, look, Rob, he was great and he wanted to help, but he was also saying, Rob, we need you now as well, and the lads will need you as well. Sticks with me. I remember that conversation really well, and I thought, okay, I know, and I'll be okay, and I'll be fine. I'll be able to do that. So the way then, we wanted to be able to support the boys, so we had sporting chants that came in. We knew we had that organised so that we could we could get professional help if needed. We didn't want to force it on anyone, but we wanted to say, look, we're here if needed. Is numbers and everything else, and I think one or two people were leaned on that as well, and everyone deals with it differently. The way I then dealt with it was, once we got everyone back in a couple of days later, was I wanted to talk about Tom. I wanted to talk about what he means to me and how then we were going to move forward. So the first thing was, right, he's okay, and this is where he's at the moment, to reassure one or two people, because the lads would have heard from him and texted him and spoke to him. Some of them his closest mates, and some of them wouldn't have as much information on it. So he's okay, he's in good hands. And then I wanted to talk about him and him as a man, and I just thought, what I didn't want to do, and I think I said this in the press, I didn't want to be selfish with it. I didn't want to see it or try and use it as fuel or motivation to win a game of football. I thought that was selfish, and I didn't think it was the right way to be. I would never want to do that. But I knew Tom would want us to win, and the lads are still competitive beasts, and we're going into a game of football. We want to try and win a game of football. But I wanted to talk about him and what he means to me, and what he embodies as a person. I wanted us to try and use that, what he is. He's not the quickest, he's not the biggest, he's not the best technical player in the world, but he's fought to get himself from the National League to be captain in the Premier League, scoring a goal at Goodison Park. He is someone who makes the absolute most out of what he has got. He's brave, he's the bravest person I know, and he's honest, he's determined, he's a fighter, and I wanted us to embody what he is, and I spoke about that with the players. You won't be surprised, I got emotional again, because my wife hammers me, because all I seem to be doing is crying over this last 18 months when I've been, so I opened up a little bit, but talked about embodying what Tom is, but really being careful not to use it as a selfish motivation tool or something. And I think after that, it was good. I managed to get a few things off my chest, talk about him. We all knew he was right, and then it was okay. Let's focus. Let's get on with what the job is here. He would want us to go and win this game. Let's go and do it.
You need to hear this, okay? Your gut matters. It's a vital building block to health. Now, you might not know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. I didn't know that. And 95% of serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical, is created in your gut. And if there's one thing we need more of, it's a feel-good chemical, right? That's why when it came to choosing a probiotic, I had to know it was proven and that I could fully trust it. And this is it. Biotic by Heights, specifically formulated to give you everything you need for your gut, your mind, and your immune system. I take it every day, and the difference for me is real. And you could trust me, fine, cool, or you could trust the tens of thousands of high performers and elite athletes that rely on Biotic every day. So join tens of thousands of high performers and try Heights with an exclusive 20% off your first month, only with this podcast. Go to heights.com/HP or enter the code HP20 at checkout. You'll love it.
I mean, that reminds me of when we sat down with Chris Voss, the FBI hostage negotiator, who had the line that emotion saves time. So being willing to share your emotions, however extreme they are, it allows people to move on a lot quicker and build those relationships. When you look back on that now, do you feel that that was the right approach then to speak about Tom in that way?
It was the right thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether everyone's different, aren't they? And everyone would deal with it in a different way. Some wouldn't show, I suppose, some would be able to just go not show any emotion, just focus on the next thing. I'm not a robot, and I have to try and be me. And I know I'm better when I speak about things.
Yeah.
And talk about them. If I have to have honest conversations with the lads, and if they're difficult, I feel better for having them. So I know I have to have them. I had to do that, maybe selfishly for me, but I think it was going to be the right way then to go for us to all move forward as a group. It was a hell of a thing that happened, and that we were all around and witnessed.
I wonder whether the incident with Tom actually helps remove fear from some of those players, because it's like, look, this puts football in perspective, actually. And winning or losing a game of football on a Saturday matters a lot to you, them, the Luton fans. But from what we've just seen, it's not everything.
You're right. And we were able to then use that a few times. I didn't want to use it all the time. It becomes like white noise, doesn't it? And then, you said that you say it all the time, Rob. But I used it probably 3 or 4 times after. And what's the worst that can happen? We were down a number of times last year, but then showed a lot of character to fight back and maybe get something from a game or come really close. And we could use that. What's the worst that could happen here, lads? Lose a game of football. In the end, it's really important. It's our jobs, it's football. It matters to so many people. So I'm not underplaying this. I don't want to say, and our supporters wouldn't want to hear me saying that. It's not only a game. It is more than that to us. Yeah. It's our jobs, our livelihoods. It matters a lot. But there also are more important things,
And was there a moment where Tom returned? And I'm wondering what that was like for you and for all the lads as well.
Yeah. One of the best days for us last year was the Brighton game at home. So he was there for that game. He went out before the game around the stadium, and that was the first time all our supporters were able to see him again up on his feet. He could get the love and support and the adulation that he really deserved. And obviously we backed it up with a great performance and a really good win that night. It was a phenomenal night for the club, for him, and it was really, really good.
We just had a video message in for you that we wanted to share with you, so would you press play on that and tell us what you think?
How would I describe Rob Edwards? Wow, how long have you got? Honestly, I love the man. Obviously what I had to go through, I will ever be thankful for what he's done for me and my family since then, and can't thank him enough for that. But that's just the type of bloke he is: honest, humble, hard-working, and look at his achievements at Forest Green and Luton Town. He's so humble with them. Even when he got promoted with Luton, he was giving the credit to other people. So and then as a player, when I look at it, all you want is honesty, at least you know where you stand with people, and that's exactly what you get. And it's a lot easier to buy into the things he wants to do then. But yeah, honestly, just an incredible human being. Hopefully I get to run through brick walls for him again in the future.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, it means a lot. I think, look, he's really special to me, and I do think we have got a special bond, but it's lovely to hear that from someone like him, because that's ultimately really how I'd like to be remembered, by people that I've worked with, and yeah, it's nice to hear. It means a lot. You and him will have a connection that goes beyond the game, I think, now, won't you? Yeah, forever. And I'd always want him around wherever I am. I do. I genuinely love the guy as a person, and will never ever forget what he has done for not just the club, for me as well. What would you say he has done for you? He played probably the biggest part in that team that got us promoted to the Premier League. After that Blackpool game, that promotion, I was looking around. I didn't play that day. I was on the bench, was part of it. I looked around at the 40,000 Orange fans and thought, I'd love this one day. 13 years later, I was literally there, Orange fans, having it, there. Wow. And he played. He played about 8 to 10 minutes that day at Wembley. He played the biggest part for us that year in the promotion. So not just what he did on the pitch, how he led the group off it, standards that he set. Give us an example of how he is a captain. He's honest. When he speaks with the authority of a 50-year-old manager who I think has got way more experience than me. Sometimes I think, flipping it, I'm like, you can come and do what I do now. He's eloquent. He knows the right tone to hit. And I think for a player, it's fairly rare to be able to nail it every single time. He knows when to be quiet. He knows when to listen. But he just had such high standards, whether that was in training, match day before the game. I wasn't privy to them all. On a match day, the lads will do the warm-up and then they'll have their huddle. And sometimes Richie or Trolls, my assistants, would come in and go, what Lock said today. Like, wow. Yeah. He's a leader he's a leader, yeah. So then the day comes when relegation is confirmed. How was that day for you? Yeah, difficult. I mean, West Ham, it wasn't mathematically done, but it was done. And that was a day, again, where in the end it made me emotional, because I'm stood there and we had this sort of really poignant moment where we stood there for about 10 minutes and our supporters were on their feet and singing and applauding these players. And I said this to the lads a few times, like, you are heroes to these people. For what you've done for this football club, you are heroes. You're going to remember for so long. We had the chance then to be really like legendary people. Mick Harford's and that kind of level of people, but they're going to be remembered for a long time for what they've done and the highs that they've given these supporters. So to get that love, even though really we knew we were down that day, was really emotional for me. It made me sad that I felt like I'd failed them and let them down. But I was just incredibly proud to then represent this club as well, because in what could be a really dark moment, it didn't feel like that. It just feels like this club is still on the way forward and up, even though we've had a setback. And that moment almost convinced me, like, right, we got to get back here. Do you honestly think that you failed? I mean, you had very few players with Premier League experience. 60 players in the Premier League individually earned more than your entire squad earn in a season. You took the club through to the Premier League in a playoff final on a penalty shootout, and then you held your own almost for the entire season against all the odds, everything that happened with Tom. You honestly see it as a failure? Personally, because that's always there now, and I really genuinely believe that we could do it, and I knew the scale of the task, but I don't think I knew it fully until then we really started living it as well, like in those early weeks, as I was explaining earlier on. But yeah, I thought if you'd have asked me around January, February time, December, January, February, when we really changed and we were playing really well, I thought, we're going to do this. And then ultimately, there's some things that we've still got to be able to look at and review, and things that are really important. So we lost a lot of people, a lot of injuries, and that's an area that I think there's not just one thing there. There's almost 20 things, almost 20 reasons that we've got to look at, but we've got to be better as a group, as a team, me, everybody, to try and make sure that our strongest squad is available to be able to pick from. But yeah, I felt like we could do it. I felt that we were good enough to be able to do it, but we weren't. And yeah, I think that'll live with me for a long, long time. But I would say I do recognise that we've done well as well. I can tell myself that. I do recognise that we've done a good job here. But I think our challenge now, this is great. This is the journey that we're on. We're improving and we're getting better. Our next step now is to try, and we know how difficult the Championship is, but we've proved we can do it, is to try and get there again. And then next time, if we do, we're better for it. But we'll be better. We'll be better for the experience that we've just had in this league now next year. And we're starting from a much stronger position because of the way that we've evolved as a team, tactically, physically, everything. There's no doubt it takes you to another level, that league. There's no doubt. And like I said before, there's nothing that really surprised us. And it's, I mean, myself and Richie had worked with the England youth team. We're working with best players and tactically at a really sort of high level. But this is great. You're coming again like Pep and Unai and people like that. These are like, you know, they're geniuses.
Which manager
brilliant.
did you look at their work and think, oh wow, okay?
Well, the City away game was the hardest game that we had all season. There's no doubt about it. We couldn't get out. You know, they were incredible that day. We were a little bit under strength, and you look at the squad, you turn around, I've got 2 goalkeepers, 5 teenagers on the bench, and it was like we were, at that time, we had a lot of people missing, but they were unbelievable. They were brilliant. Everything that, you know, they were fast, clinical, so disciplined, but they worked incredibly hard. Their intensity was just another level. It was brilliant. That was tough, and Pep's team was great, and the plan that they have against us, I mean, the FA Cup game was incredible. He played all of his dribblers, the people that could handle the ball against that man-for-man press, and he'd have John Stones like stepping forward and was playing like a number 10, and taking our number 9 back all the way with him as well. I mean, it was a nuts game, and it should have been about 8-4. It ended up 6-2 to them, but we created big chances. It was a brilliant performance, but we got some things wrong, but they were incredible. But I think what Unai Emery did at Villa, I think, and Andoni as well at Bournemouth, I think those two were outstanding. Their sort of coaching, what they did as coaches and how they improved their teams. I thought there were a couple of really impressive performances from them and their teams last year. Brilliant.
I've read a story about Jurgen Klopp going to some UEFA coaches meeting when he was at Dortmund, and he told somebody afterwards, he said, I only went once because I wanted to go and meet these guys, understand that they were no different than me, and then I had the confidence to go and be myself. Yeah. Did you have a moment where you thought, I'm all right here, I'm in the right company?
It was funny. It was great because there were some nice moments last year, and people that looked like him, really, the people, Jurgen, Mikel, Pep, finished the top 3, didn't they, last year? I had the most time with them after a game, and they were brilliant, really respectful, and I left the room, especially after leaving Jurgen's office after the game, feeling about 10 foot tall. I've got a little bit of a feeling of how his players must feel playing for him.
Give us the reason why.
He was amazing, and he put his arm around me when we walked in. They beat us 4-1. We won 1-0 up half time. We were playing really well, but ultimately they were too good. Anfield was amazing that night. It was brilliant, and he came in after the game, put his arm around me, and we were looking at the picture of him with the Champions League trophy, and he was like, how old are you? 41. He said, when I was your age, I was as far away from that trophy as you are now. But then he started talking about how this can be your time now and what you're doing. I love what you're doing and how you're working with the team and stuff. And I was like, wow, you know, this is Jurgen Klopp now. This is like one of the guys who is an inspiration for me, saying this. So I left feeling really confident that we were on the right track, and we're trying to do things the right way. And look, what is the right way? I mean, everyone's different. It's just fine. I don't want that to people to think there's more than one way. So I don't mean that, but just
your way.
Yeah, our way, and being brave and trying to be us. And I just love that someone like him could still appreciate, and he can, because he did 7 years at Mainz and took a smaller team up to the Bundesliga and kept them there as well, and then ultimately got relegated and then tried to go again. And so I think he would have had a real understanding for where we were with it as well. So I did really appreciate that from him.
And Pep?
But brilliant. I had a glass of wine with him, and yeah, he was just, again, incredibly generous with his time. Appreciates what we did. Said we got balls, pressing the goalkeeper at Anfield. He said, I don't even do that. So yeah, it was nice to hear some things from him as well. And yeah, I think those guys sort of were pretty, look, ultimately they beat us, and all right, we got a point off Liverpool in the home game, which was, it was an amazing night for us, but they beat us. They've got amazing teams. They're brilliant people and brilliant managers and coaches, but we did perform well in those games against the best, and we competed as well as we could. So it was really, really nice to be able to sit down with them, have a little bit of time, because I know it's probably different for me, but they're incredibly busy and there's a lot of demands on them as well. So for them to give that time it'll mean a lot to me. It means a lot to me.
Someone once asked me a question which stopped me in my tracks a bit. They said, when you got the job hosting Formula One, which was a big leap for me from kids' telly, they said, who was kind? I thought, wow, what a lovely answer. Who was kind to me in those moments? And you're managing the Premier League is on a whole different level. But the same question to you, really. When you got promoted, I'm really interested. Who was kind behind closed doors? No big fanfare, because I think that's a real mark of a person.
Those three guys in particular were incredible. That was during the season. I think when on the promotion, it was amazing that the sort of love and support and kindness that we received from almost everyone in my phone book and more, which was, it took me weeks to be able to reply to everybody.
And I do want to talk about Unai as well, because I think that his story I find particularly compelling because of the way he was pilloried and criticised and almost hounded out of the Premier League the first time around. All the memes and the jokes around him, and then he comes back in and now he shows what we failed to see the first time, even though he'd done it for many, many years, taking a team constantly to the Europa League final and batting above their weight.
You can argue that he's been the best coach, this league, this year in the league. City won the league, incredible again, and that you can never. Pep's just on a whole nother level, isn't he, with what he's done? But the job that Unai has done there, they've got brilliant players, of course they have. But then the shift and how quickly he's been able to change them to get them to that level. It's it's hard to put that into words, really, how the respect that I've got for him. And I know he puts an unbelievable amount of time and energy into every single day, every single session, every single moment of the job, and it's been repaid with getting the team to Champions League, to the Champions League, and whatever he's going to go on and do. He strikes me, and I don't know him very, very well at all. I've spoke to him a little bit out of a few messages back and forth.
What did he say?
It was a huge congratulations on what you've done, and I find it really hard to take anything like that from people, because I think at the time we're probably in the bottom three, and I'm like, thank you, and you're doing what you're doing. I said, like, well done to you too. You know what I mean? And he's like, no. He was like, really, seriously, what you? And I thought, wow, thank you, it's nice, and I know he's sort of appreciated what we've done as well on a different scale. And it was a really good game as well. The second time around, it beat us 3-2 late on, but we played really, really well. It was a great game. So that was nice. Again, a bit of confirmation, or from someone like him was good. Like we're on the right track. We're trying to do what's right for us. But I think he's a special manager. He's won so much. Was it 4 European titles? And so, it's all there.
I wonder how next season's going to be for you, actually, because it will be different. You got not an easy ride in the Premier League, but there was so much love for you and what you were doing in Luton. There's now going to be expectation.
Yeah, you're right. And that's going to be real different for us to be able to handle that. You're spot on. So we, got promoted when we weren't expected to. You're right, we were massive underdogs all of last year, and people, we did get an easy ride. There's no doubt about it. We're losing games. Luton have done well, they competed well. So I get that, and I appreciate it. We have now got to be able to deal with the expectation that we've got to be up there, and we've got to win more games than we lose. So that is going to be interesting, and how we deal with that. We'll have to talk about that openly from the first day of pre-season when the lads are back in to get everyone ready to deal with it.
And how are you feeling now? It would be easy to be thinking, I'd love to just be back in the Premier League. Is there any element of exhaustion, tiredness, lack of ambition?
No, none of that. I feel really, really good and really motivated. Look, it hurt, of course it did, and it still does if I really think about that. The Premier League fixtures came out yesterday, didn't they? And I was jealous. Remember receiving those last year and being so excited, but it just fuels the fire to want to get back there. And again, this is like those wins. We can't guarantee that. We know how difficult the Championship is, but the challenge ahead, that journey now, I keep imagining it. The two things that we did both at Forest Green and at Luton, we told the lads for day one, you're going to get promoted. We're going to get promoted. I'm looking forward to seeing them and saying this is what we want to try and do again, and visualising that. I keep visualising it in a year's time, seeing, like watching Southampton, Russell Martin doing what they did this year, and obviously the two teams. I mean, Kia and Enzo did incredible, but seeing all those people achieve something this year, and it makes me think, that's got to be us. We've got to, I want to feel. I want to feel that again.
On the first day back, we're going to get promoted.
That will be the aim, and I got to be careful managing the expectation stuff this year. But we did it at both Forest Green and we did it at Luton. First time we met the players, and we spoke about that. We visualised it, and I encouraged it. What's wrong with that? That's how I feel. That's how I feel right now. And that's what I think I will say. And then it's obviously then managing that with our supporters and everything else, and the expectancy as well this season, because it's inevitable in this league. You can have some difficult moments, so we've got to be able to deal with that.
If there's one person that needs to believe, it's you.
Yeah.
And you genuinely do believe.
Yeah, I do.
The one bit of wisdom that Alex Ferguson passes on to any young manager is that you should always choose your boss really carefully. So managing upwards is a skill that I don't think often gets acknowledged. We've spoken about how you manage your team, but managing that relationship with the person above you is a really interesting one. What insights would you share with us?
I think it's the most important thing, Damian. So I know for me to be able to work my best and be part of something successful, the two times we've had it, Forest Green and at Luton, we got promoted. And then obviously, last season was last season. But when I left the FA to take the Forest Green job, if you don't mind me going back a little bit further, John McDermott, technical director at the FA, he said, look, you've got to be able to win. You're going into a place now, an environment where you're going to get sacked, but can you win? But I looked at the team, I did my research, but I spoke to Richard Hughes, who was the director of football at the time, and Dale Vince, who's the owner, and it was like, well, they finished in the playoffs last year. They're giving the last manager 5 years. I'm going to get some support. I'm going to get some time. And with that group of players, if we add one or two here, we can win. The biggest thing for me was the support and the time. And we were able to flourish. The Watford thing came up, and it was really difficult then to be able to turn that down. It was a huge leap forward for us. We're ambitious. We want to try and work at the highest level possible. I appreciated everything that Forest Green had done for us. I think we'd done well for them as well. But this was another level for us to be able to go and challenge ourselves, take a risk, let's go. Ego probably tells you, we're going to be the ones that we can deal with this at Watford. We know it's going to be difficult. So many people are saying, are you sure? Like this and this. But no, we can do it. We can get this going. We can win. But then it was really the opposite. And you don't get that support and you don't get the time. But we knew that, and we went in with our eyes wide open. But it really was that way when we got in there. It was very difficult for me to be able to work in that kind of environment. So in the next one, getting to Luton, it was really clear to me that after experiencing that and after experiencing Forest Green and knowing where I work best, what I needed in my next job. So I'm really fortunate that they even considered me, considering that 5 weeks previous I'd just been at their biggest rivals. So they took a real risk on me as well, and a leap of faith. But I knew that I was going to get a team that could win. They just finished in the playoffs the year before. They were in and around it right there and then. But I was going to get time and support from above and the people that I was going to be able to work with.
You've spoken an awful lot about alignment, Rob, and that reminds me of the coaching author Marshall Goldsmith talks about the 3 A's of alignment, which is, first of all, having aspirations. What is it you overall want to achieve? What's your ambition? How are you going to measure it? And then what are the actions that you take to do that? Have you ever had to give feedback then around where there is a misalignment higher up with your bosses?
No, I've been really lucky. I can be very honest and tell people if there's something I think we really need, this is really going to help us get over the line or X, Y, and Z. But no, I was lucky. Both both clubs, Forest Green, Richard Hughes, who's now at Portsmouth, director of football, who's done an incredible job there as well. I was really lucky to work with him. He gave me my first opportunity as a head coach in professional football. I'll always be grateful for that. He saw something in me that he felt was right for that club, but I worked really well with him. And he's brilliant. He is, and he's gone on and done that at Portsmouth as well now. And he appointed a really brave appointment in John Massinho, who's done incredible things there at Portsmouth. So I worked really well with Richard, and really Dale, as the owner, allowed Richard himself to do it. And it was great, and we could be really honest with each other. If we didn't agree, cool, we can move on. But if I needed something, he needed something, we could work together on that. And it's very much like that here now at Luton with myself and Gary. Completely honest, really open. He'll have an opinion on everything, which I welcome and I like, but he allows me to as well. And I just... You can be honest with people, and it doesn't have to be critical or anything like that. But I've never had to demand anything or say this is wrong or this isn't even good enough. No, I've not. I've been really lucky. I've not had that in my experience so far.
So, what's been the best feedback he's given you?
I think in times when I've maybe doubted what we're doing, or I've questioned something, I think he's allowed me. He's reminded me. What is your way? What are your principles? What do you believe in? And stick with that. And he's been really brave with that as well. Because these are big calls that are ultimately worth a lot of money for the football club as well. And I'm thinking now around the time of playoffs and big decisions and big games. And we were 6 months in, relatively new to that football club at the moment, completely backed us, complete trust and faith in us, but allowed us to be us. And little reminders. I think those have been the biggest thing. He's never had to really challenge me on any major decisions. He really does give us, he says, you're the manager and that's your job. But if there's times where I've opened it up or asked him, he's always reminding me then what my beliefs are and stick with that.
Oh, nice.
I like that.
Great. Right, time for some quick fire questions. The 3 non-negotiable behaviours that people around you and you need to buy into.
Respect. And I think that encompasses a lot of things then and can cover a lot. Honesty and humility.
Very good.
What's your biggest strength and your greatest weakness?
Empathy. And empathy.
Say more on that.
I just think it can also be, I can overthink. I can see if say I've had to leave someone out, for instance, I could be doing a team meeting, I can read the body language, I can see if they're with me or not at that moment. And that could be challenging because I can really pick up on sort of really sensitive on those sorts of things. So it can be a strength a lot because I'll know when to put my arm around someone or try and have a chat with them, but also it can be very draining then because I'm doing that constantly all the time.
And you said earlier though that you go and deliver bad news quickly to the individual. How do you deliver bad news?
Bullet between the eyes straight away and then try and then justify it and give them a reason why. I've learned over time you can't babble on in those situations sometimes. If you're leaving someone out, all they've heard is you left me out, and then sometimes you might need to pick up on it again later in the day or the next day, because sometimes then all they've heard is, right, I'm not playing, and that's it, and that's all they want to hear. And then you can give them a reason why, and then sometimes we end up having the same conversation later on in the day or the next day, and I think, I've told you this. And so I realise now it doesn't always register. So normally it's like, bosh, have that, and then we can pick up on it later if we need to.
If you go back to one moment in your life, where would you choose to go and why?
Oh. I mean, personal life, children being born, the family's always first. I mean, those were incredible days with 3 children, incredible. But professionally, I'm not sure if we'll ever beat Wembley. And, what happened there was incredible. So proud to be a part of that.
What advice would you give to a teenage Rob just beginning his journey?
Believe in yourself. Don't worry about what people think of you. That's the biggest thing. I think I've had a lot of doubt and still do. But I'm getting better at dealing with that. and believing that I can do it.
And finally, your one golden rule for living a high performance life.
Be kind, but believe in yourself. And I think if you're a good person, you work hard and you're good at what you do, you're going to get to where you want to be. I really believe in that. I really, really believe that with everything. So, yeah, I think be a good person. Obviously, you've got to be good at what you do, and then give it, go for it, make it happen.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us. That was fascinating.
My pleasure. Thank you.